Let me give you a quick introduction of Appodeal and what we do. We believe that the whole mobile ad industry is broken. It's built in favor of advertisers. It doesn't care about publishers. We are here to bring the balance back. We are here to bring the power back to the publishers. And we are here to protect the publishers on the ad tech. So everything that I will be sharing with you today mostly applies to the publishing side rather than advertisers. Today, Appodeal is a leading intelligent ad mediation platform for mobile apps. As you can see, we are integrated with pretty much everyone, and we efficiently distribute traffic across all the major ad networks. Some of our numbers: we currently do 70 million monthly active users. We do 6 billion impressions a month. Right, so 2,500 app developers monetize with us, they trust us, and they're happy with us. So this is a quick introduction of Appodeal. Today I'm going to be speaking mostly of the state of the mobile ads. I'd like to start with the state of the mobile market itself. First, I'd like to point out that we are in a really good position in comparison to desktop. Because as you can see, according to the recent case study done by Comscore, mobile has more and more global users all over the world rather than on desktop. Not just the amount of users increases, but also the time spent in mobile prevails over desktop. And it will continue to grow. So if somebody still focuses on desktop, it's a good time to switch to mobile, because this is where the majority of your users will be over the next years. A little breakdown by device preferences. So according to the same case study by Comscore, mobile devices, mobile cell phones are usually preferred over the commute to the work. PCs mostly dominate throughout the day at work time, and tablets popular at night. So whenever you plan your next game, make sure that it fits this usage patterns. I'd like to point out some common trends that we currently see on the market. As you might have mentioned, more and more ad networks promote rewarded videos as the most trending format right now. I disagree with that. We at Appodeal, we see more and more successful publishers still relying on interstitials and banners. Because even though rewarded videos provide you very high eCPM, you can't scale it up properly. You can't get enough volume. So in many cases, games that focus on ad-based monetization model, they stick with interstitials and banners. That's where the majority of ad revenues are focused. Native is thriving. I'm not sure if you attended presentation by Cheetah Mobile. It was a really bright presentation. If you didn't have a chance, I encourage to watch it later over YouTube. So Cheetah Mobile explained perfectly well why we are in the world where native ads are going to be dominant over the next years. We still see a lack of technologies and demand from the advertisers in this platform, but it will definitely change over the next years. So I would say that interstitials and banners are the right ad formats if you want to make some money right away. Natives is the right format if you are looking into the future of 1 or 2 years. And like I said, rewarded videos remain a good alternative to in-app purchases, but overall provide very low ARPDAU. The reason is because you can't scale it up properly, right? So you get $25 eCPM, but only like 1 impressions per session. That's not enough to make enough money. The other trend that we continue to see is auction-based ad mediation, or also known as header bidding mediation. Opposing to traditional waterfall mediation, auction-based ad mediation essentially works as a flat waterfall. So it allows all of the ad networks, all of the demand partners to have equal opportunity to fight for the first look, and thus generate you higher revenue. So header bidding mediation, as well as, or also known as action-based ad mediation, continues to ramp up. Hyperlocal targeting, as well as data in general, is a big thing, right? As we see more and more brand advertisers spending money on mobile, they need this data, right? This is not kind of CPI advertisers where they don't really care much whether it's a female or a male playing your game. Branding advertisers do care. And hyperlocal targeting is a huge trend right now. So if you guys rely on ad revenue-based model, make sure you pass GPS location of your device to your ad network. It will attract more branding advertisers. Now, ad revenue attribution per user cohort is something that we are all familiar with from in-app purchases, right? So you can acquire users from two different sources, like from Facebook and from Chartboost. And then you can calculate lifetime value of each segment of users based on the amount of money that they spent within your app. But there is no way to calculate lifetime value based on the ad revenue that these users generate for you. So you can't really efficiently acquire users and break them down into segments without this attribution. So ad revenue attribution per user cohort is something that we should be seeing available this year or maybe next year. It's going to lead, eventually it's going to lead to a more accurate lifetime value prediction and to a more accurate user acquisition based on the lifetime value. I'm going to walk you through currently active ad formats a little bit, just a little bit deeper. Before we go further, I'd like to point out that whenever you, as a publisher, right, whenever you rely on the ad monetization model, eCPM is something that everyone is using to assess performance of ad networks. Now, we claim that this is not the very accurate metric, and the more accurate metric is ARPDAU, average revenue per daily active user. Why is that? Because eCPM might be skyrocket high, right, but the amount of impressions might be low. So if we take ARPDAU into consideration instead of eCPM, then we will see that at this moment, the majority of the ad revenues is still located on the interstitial format. Yes, interstitial format affects your retention rate, and this is one of the reasons why native ads can be a good replacement for interstitials. However, don't count to make too much money out of rewarded videos. Rewarded videos is just an addition, it's just a support for your strong in-app purchases monetization model. So for those who focus on ad revenues primarily, start with interstitials. Why interstitials are so strong, and they remain so strong today? One of the main reasons is, so there are two reasons basically here, right? First reason is that opposing to rewarded videos, you can display much more interstitials over one session. Typically, we see 2.28 impressions per daily active user on the interstitial side. And at the same time, eCPM is relatively high as well. Why it is high? Because we see all the branding advertisers are familiar with interstitials, and branding advertisers, they always drive, higher revenues, higher eCPMs to advertising rather than CPI advertisers. So interstitials is a good balance of branding advertisers and amount of impressions that you can serve. However, keep in mind that it really annoys your users, so it is going to affect your retention rate. So this is something to keep in mind. And for the most casual games, typical retention rate is not so high. It's more like a game that is being played several times, and then users never get back to the app. So for this kind of apps, interstitials are really good. Core ad networks that currently perform well on the interstitials format and drive brands would be AdMob, MoPub, StartApp as a very good backfill, Facebook, and MyTargets. Pretty much the same applies to banners, right? So even though the banners, the smaller banners, is an obsolete format, right? No, if you talk to any user acquisition manager, they're going to tell you that banner is not worth it to spend time on it. However, for us as a publishers, for those who make money out of ad revenues, banners continues to remain a very profitable model. Why is that? Because we see on average about 22.9 impressions per daily active user. That's a lot. How we can achieve it? We can achieve it by refresh rate, right? Whenever we display banner, we can refresh it once in a minute, once in 30 seconds. It depends, right? So banners continue to be second top grossing ad formats for today. However, it affects your user retention just like interstitials. Not too many core ad networks that still support this ad format. And one of the reasons is because from advertisers' point of view, banners do not make any sense at all because they don't really convert much, right? But these ad networks, they primarily serve branding advertisers, so you can still, get access to these branding budgets, which is good for you. So AdMob, Amazon Ad Network, Interactive, and MoPub. Those four would be really good for banners. Video interstitial is just a small addition to static interstitials. Not worth it at all to use it as a separate format because the majority of the video interstitials are coming from CPI-based advertisers, so brands are not really there yet. But nevertheless, it's a good addition to interstitials, and if you rely on interstitials, then make sure to enable video interstitials as an addition. Core ad networks that we have here would be Plovin, Vongol, Unity Ads, Ad Colony. Ad Colony should be here as well, and MoPub drives some programmatic demand, some demand from the branding campaigns. Now the rewarded videos. The rewarded videos is a great format. It is great because it can act as a substitute for in-app purchases. Whenever your users cannot afford to spend or do not want to spend money to buy coins within your game, you can offer them an alternative. The good thing about rewarded videos is that they provide really high eCPM and they do not have a negative impact on your retention rate. The bad thing about it is that you cannot serve too many rewarded videos per session. So overall ARPDAU would be really low. So you should consider rewarded videos only as an addition to your existing in-app purchases model. If you rely primarily on ad revenue based model, rewarded videos might be not the right option for you. Here is the list of the strongest ad networks in the rewarded videos site. Plovin, Unity Ads, Chartboost, Vongol, Ad Colony, and MoPub. They are all pretty good. Native ads is where we see the future of advertisement in general. It's a good substitute for banners. It's a good substitute for interstitials because of several reasons. First of all, it doesn't have a negative impact on your users. Second, you can display, on average, we see 6.39 impressions per daily active users on in the native side. So that's a good amount of impressions, especially in comparison to interstitials or other formats. And at the same time, eCPM is not there yet, right? But we see more and more brands and advertisers spending money here. So if your focus is to build ad revenue, sustainable ad revenue based large company, game development company, then native ads is definitely the future. This is something that you should rely on in order to monetize your app. As you can see, we see about 30% to 200% improvements in comparison to banners. So if you still stay with banners, then you should definitely consider native ads. Core ad networks, again, Facebook, MyTarget, Avocarrot, PubNative, Flurry, MoPub, and StartApp. Those 7 would be the best performing ad networks on the native side. So a primary benefit of native ads versus standard banners would be higher retention rates and the CPM uplift of up to 200%. Yeah, so this is about ad formats, and this is pretty much it, right? And I'm just going to give you a small bonus here. I'm going to give you a breakdown of ad performance related to, broken down by just different patterns and device makes and models. So here's what we see. Based on the device make and model, actually you can produce different amount of money. You can generate different amount of revenue, different eCPM on different ARPDAU. So on Android, we see most of the highest eCPMs and highest CTRs coming from Alcatel and Samsung. Now, the funny thing here is the battery state of device user actually affects performance of your ads, your ad revenues. The lower charge of the battery, the higher eCPM you get from advertisements. So whenever device is fully charged, your eCPM will be low. Whenever device battery goes down, your eCPM will improve. That's what we see across our inventory. Similar applies to connection time. Connection type, overall you see much better eCPMs on Wi-Fi connections rather than 3G connections. Day of the week affects a lot. So we see the highest ad revenues coming from apps over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, while Monday remains the least paying day over the week. So keep that in mind while you're planning your user acquisition strategies. And the last slide here is an hour of the day. So apparently the best paying ads are being displayed between 6 and 9 p.m. at night, usually when users go back home and they have enough time to play on the way back home. So, and at night, at like 3 or 4 a.m. at night, your ads are not going to pay you much. So you might want to look for a balance here between improving your retention rates, like not displaying any ads at night at all to improve your retention rate, and at the same time displaying advertisements at a more intense rates at night when the conversion rate is the highest. Just a quick summary here that interstitials will remain accountable for the majority of mobile game ad revenues. So that doesn't apply to utilities or social, so this is casual games conference. So interstitials will remain accountable for the majority ad revenues unless you focus on in-app purchases. Native ads will be adopted by publishers to improve retention rates and monetize non-paying users over the next couple of years. Videos will continue to remain a good alternative to monetize non-paying users. However, its volume and ARPDAU will remain relatively low. So it only makes sense to use rewarded videos if you have a strong enough purchase model. Programmatic native and video will continue to grow, bring in more brands and advertisers and networks into the space. So I would like to point out here programmatic native, which is what we really are looking forward to scale up over the next year or two. Ad revenue attribution per user cohort will become available for publishers, just like in-app purchases revenue attribution. So you can estimate lifetime value of different cohorts of your users based on ad revenue. And traditional waterfall model will be replaced by header bidding, also known as flat waterfall model. So this is something to keep in mind while shopping around for the mediation platform. That's pretty much it. Please visit our website, appodeal.com, and I'm happy to answer your questions if there are any.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I have one quick question. So you mentioned about hyperlocal targeting. So would you please explain what it is, like kind of define, and also how much premium you are seeing in terms of CPM with that?
Hyperlocal advertisement is whenever you go to the mall, and then there is a shopping boutique in that mall, and they display advertisements. Hey, come over. Here is a coupon. Here is a discount. We know that you are close by. We want you to buy these shoes, and we give you we're going to give you discounts. So this is hyperlocal. More and more smaller businesses start spending money there, especially when programmatic continues to thrive and ease the availability of hyperlocal advertisements. Generally speaking, hyperlocal advertisement as itself doesn't affect premium much. What affects premium is brands and advertisers. Because typically the way it works, brands and advertisers, they have a certain budget to spend, right? They don't really care that much about ROI as CPI advertisers. And because of that funny thing that they're not that incentivized to track their ROI, they tend to spend more than CPI advertisers. Enabling hyperlocal advertisements by sharing device location grants you access to additional branding demands, makes your inventory available to run this kind of branding advertisers. Generally speaking, we see up to 3 to 5 times eCPM improvements when advertisements are coming from branding campaigns. It depends a lot on the region and many other aspects, but I think that's a good number to start with.
Hi, just a curious question. You mentioned that battery charge has some effect on the eCPM. Why is that?
I'm sorry, what affects eCPM? Could you repeat?
The battery charge, the charge of the battery.
Oh, yeah. Right. So, frankly speaking, I have no idea. This is stats. This is statistics. This is what we have accumulated at Appodeal over a year and a half that we've been on the market. This is just what we see. My idea is that batteries start to die by the end of the day, and users are less resistant to advertisement because they are tired as well. But I don't know. Maybe you can give me an idea why it's happening like this.
Hi. So the slide had mentioned about the header bidding. So how will that solve the water flow problem?
So the mobile app environment is completely different from desktop environment. Header bidding mediation, header bidding in general was introduced by web publishers because they were looking to place ad networks into an equal position. However, on the mobile, on web in general, you are limited over less than a second, over a very short period of time, when you can run this auction to facilitate the auction, right? Because of that, on web, ad networks, they encourage a lot of technical obstacles and issues implementing header bidding. With mobile apps, it's a completely different world. With mobile apps, we have all the time in the world to find the right advertisement. Because whenever your app launches, you can start looking for the right advertisement in the background. You don't have to display that advertisement right away. You display it after like 30 seconds or a minute or some time. The user has to spend some time. So because you have that time of 30 seconds or even minutes, you are actually not put under constraints of technical limitations of implementation of header bidding. Based on that, you can essentially break down your waterfall into smaller tiers, which will essentially emulate header bidding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.